So this video is about karmic relationships. Now, it's quite an in-depth topic. It ties into soul contracts, past lives, and how that then comes into this lifetime. So quite often karmic relationships will have lessons and teaching in them. Otherwise, there's no reason for them. Now, often too, we will see patterns within them or role reversals. Because there is teaching and learning in them, it's always hard. The disappointing thing is that most of our learning doesn't come from great joyous moments. And that's because we don't spend time to integrate, sit in the joy, we just experience it. Whereas when we have had hardships, trauma, we do spend that time in reflection. But we don't spend that time in reflection when it is a positive experience, which is kind of disappointing. And so I would encourage you to do that, because what we focus on, we have more of. So reflect on those joyous moments. Really connect into it and go inward and do a lot of that introspective work that you do in the lessons space, so we can have more of it. So let's dive into the karmic situations, those karmic lessons. They will be, as I said, connected into your soul contract and contract of whoever else is in play. They can be a smaller lesson or something that continues on and on and on. And I know from my own experience, I have had karmic lessons that I knew from the time that I met that person that this was a significant relationship. I understood how it showed up, and the karmic lessons went over 3.5 years. And it was not fun. But within that, there has been some magical growth. So when we sit in understanding the karmic lesson and we don't fight it and we try and integrate what we're being taught, we can move through it at a higher elevation. So from a higher perspective, a more, I'm going to say, soul aware, a deeper level of consciousness. So our human doesn't have the trauma that we would have otherwise. And we can integrate the lesson from that vantage point that is almost like that bird's eye view. So easier said than done, because we do get really caught in the humanness of these lessons. Why me? Why is it hurting? Why is it so much? Why am I going through this? You know, from the victim space, rather than what do I need to learn? Because in a karmic lesson, in where we've got past lives where we're teaching, if we can look at it from our what do you need to learn? Don't worry about the rest of it because it's not on you. But what do you need to learn to shift through it, to almost move into a different dimensional space? Even if the other people involved in the situation are not in that space, they're still down in the weeds. They're still behaving a certain way. Don't join them. Elevate above. And you elevate above by looking at it from a different perspective on how do I grow from this? What do I need to learn and understand? And dive into it. You might be able to do that by yourself. You might need someone to help you through that, because sometimes when we're in it, it's really hard to get to that vantage point, that bird's eye view of what's going on, to really be able to unpick the healing and the growth. So you might need sometimes a professional to help you with that understands this type of work on this soul contract level. But if you can do it yourself, do it. And it's working on your shadow, looking at the growth that comes up. Now, we can't really, if we're staying ethical, influence anyone else. We just can't. No matter what they're projecting, no matter what they're doing, you can't. So I'm going to say, if we're going through this, whether it's in the past or it even comes up in the future, don't get into the weeds. Just let them be and elevate. through looking at it from that different consciousness level. Now, there are some things that we can do over and above the healing, the shadow work that you need to do, the integration of your lesson. So identify the lesson. What is it? Where's the theme? Why is it coming up? Why are you responding a particular way? Because this is where I'm going to say, this is where the gold sits. Look at how you are responding, whether it be an actual response, verbal, emotional, physical. What is your response? What triggered it? Triggers everywhere in your life are gold for you, because this is where you will grow. Anything that triggers you, as I said, physically, emotionally, will be your opportunity to elevate and grow as a soul. Look at what triggers you. What's the response? And understand why you're triggering, because that why, understanding the why you're triggered, that, and really integrating the why, showing up differently, identifying it when it happens, and it's kind of, we've got to slow it down to do it, will mean that you will stop triggering over time. So look at your trigger, understand your why. Then when we delve deeper into the healing, we also look at how did that trigger arrive in your timeline initially. So this is where sometimes we need a professional to help us that understands this, because we might not have that skill set, or we might not be able to do that for ourselves, even if we have that skill set, because sometimes we're too close. So this is how we do it. We look in the timeline, we look at our why, we look at our trigger, and we look at when that was placed in our timeline now, or potentially for this lifetime, and then unpack that point of time. And this is where we move that elevation of consciousness, because once we integrate that, we then no longer triggered by it. We have awareness when it happens. We may see people doing it and trying to trigger us, and it's pretty much like that. Doesn't matter anymore. It's not going to impact me. I see it, I acknowledge it, and it is what it is. And there is no response when you've integrated a trigger, the learning from that trigger, I should say. So it's very interesting. So the other thing too, as we go through this, because this is quite a big thing, it's a big process. It's not something that we cover off in a quick video. But the other thing that we can do is we can look at too, on an energetic level, why or what we need to do to assist the other person on a higher consciousness level. What do they need for their own growth? Is that something that you can facilitate, or your higher self can facilitate, in regards to what they need from you? Once again, it's that teaching learning situation. So quite in-depth kind of stuff that we're talking about here, but it is about identifying on an energetic level, a consciousness level that is above their human, or even their own human, what they need. And in that space, if we're talking about, how someone's showing up in their everyday life, where is their pain? Because if someone's behaving poorly, that's because they're in pain. Where are their pain triggers? Where is their fear? Because if they didn't hold that within them, they wouldn't be showing up that way. Where is their level of even consciousness? Not judging it, just having an appreciation. Because if you judge, it's just as bad as the things that they do. So it's having an appreciation about where are they on their journey? Why are they in pain? And why are they projecting the way that they are? And sitting in that and working your way through that. Sometimes, once again, you can do it for yourself, or you might need a professional to help you to go, with that awareness, now I can send compassion and love to them. And you'd be like, if you only knew what they did, how can I send them compassion and love? And I'm going to say, when we appreciate someone's pain and we detach from what they're doing, what they're projecting, because we've already elevated, we've understood. When we do that, we can send compassion and love. When we really understand why someone shows up in a negative way. We are beings of light, full of love. And I ask you to go into that space when you have to do this. and to appreciate that if they could do better, they would do better, just like you. But they can't. And they can't because they're in pain, suffering, or where they are on their journey. Otherwise, they would be better. To understand if it's a past life situation, if we're going through these karmic lessons with people, is one, you can definitely go through hypnosis to be able to determine that, or even through a reading process that someone that would look at soul contracts, timelines to be able to unpack it. If you really need that information. But I'm going to say from my own experience, it generally is. And it's generally a balancing out because the universe brings everything into balance. So my experience is that relationships that have a really dramatic exchange of energy, they're balancing out. So sometimes I get asked, it's like, well, was I awful to them? Potentially, for sure. It's just the way it works out. Everything, the universe always brings itself into balance. And this time around, the teaching and learning, you've agreed to do it a different way than what you did it last time. But that part really isn't that important if we're going through it. Yes, sometimes we need to know the why. But the why keeps us in a spiral. So I'd say let go of the why on a level and drop into the compassion that you hold as a light being full of love and divine love, not just human love, and understand their perspective. You can work with, and there are ways to work with energetic transfer in regards to the appreciation of what they need from you and to be able to give it to them. There's lots of methods to do that, to transfer energy, manifest the energy that they require to be able to give it to them so they can be satisfied. We can also, in really extreme circumstances, and it is exceptionally extreme circumstances, negotiate soul contracts, try and renegotiate soul contracts. So that definitely can be done as well. There's lots of ways in regards to protection, and anyone that's looked at my website knows that there is a very intense, in-depth protection course there that has a lot of ritual and other methods ranging from very beginner stuff to quite advanced protection methods in there that include when someone is projecting energy at us so it doesn't come into our reality. It can go somewhere else. It can go to avatars. It can go to strands of our DNA elsewhere. There's a whole lot of interesting stuff there. But also how to process the energy that's in cords that are connected between relationships, how to change that, how to change the cord, how to reduce the cord, even how to remove the cord, and to work your way through that and the consequences of that, because there are consequences of it. So, as I said, if we're going through what feels like a karmic balance, very significant relationships that are a lot, look at how you show up, look at where you are triggered, understand that first, and do the work on that first. That's step one, which will raise your consciousness when you then have to deal with it. Step two is the appreciation and understanding and awareness of why they're showing up the way they are, where their pain sits, where their consciousness sits. And it's awareness only, no judgment. Step two. So then when it's projected and you're going through it, you raise yourself and appreciate where they are. And you won't be triggered, and you can send a lot of love there. Because after all, it's a nice energy stream that will balance out what they are projecting. Number three is why it happened. Is it a dynamic in regards to soul contracts, teaching, learning that you've agreed on prior to coming here? Is it a karmic balance of past lives? That's less important, but we focus on it. What we should focus on us and our consciousness level to raise, and then sending healing to the other person by understanding where they are. And also get yourself some tools, and if required, get some assistance. So the tools are like that course I mentioned, the protection course that's on the website about protecting your energy. The other thing is, if you're in it and you either don't have the skill set or you're too connected into the situation, get someone to help you work your way through this, whether that be in a reading, a healing, some metaphysical work. If it's outside your skill set, get assistance. And if it is inside your skill set, but you're just too in it, get assistance. I hope this helps. If you've got any questions, post them below. If you need to reach out, reach out.